My mother sent the text with no warning. We're doing Thanksgiving with just the well-behaved kids this year. Yours can skip it. My daughter Eva saw my face, and her own collapsed into trembling tears. I sent back only a single icy reply. Understood. I have cancelled my card for the event. By the time I set my phone down, their family group chat was already flaring to life selfies, clinking glasses, jubilant little videos, utterly unaware that the meal they were eagerly awaiting would never materialize. The message had arrived while I was folding laundry, the warm scent of clean cotton drifting around me. The normalcy of it made the cruelty on my screen feel even sharper. A digital blade dropped into an otherwise ordinary afternoon. Eva was sitting cross-legged beside me on the rug, carefully snipping colorful paper leaves for her school's thankful tree. She lifted a bright orange leaf toward me, her small voice glowing with pride. "I'm thankful for Grandma's cookies," she announced. But then her eyes met mine, and the brightness in them dimmed as quickly as a candle in the wind. She had seen the text. Her first question came out as a thin whisper. "Did I do something wrong?" The words were followed by quiet, shuddering sobs, the kind that shake a child's entire body, and then those deep, jagged breaths children take only when they've been wounded in a way they don't yet have language for. The kind taken when a child discovers, for the very first time, that love from the people who should give it freely may not be unconditional. After all. In that instant, nothing inside me cracked. Instead, something hardened. It wasn't hot, impulsive rage. It was a cold, steady, irrevocable recognition. Whatever fantasy I had been clinging to about my family had just split apart permanently. I wrapped Eva in a thick blanket, holding her until the exhaustion drained her small frame. Then I tucked her into bed with her favorite movie playing softly and a bowl of ice cream melting at her side. When I closed her door, I felt something inside me shift, an old instinct dying. I didn't send my family a counter-argument. I didn't defend my daughter or beg them to reconsider. I went straight to my office, opened my banking apps, and began dismantling the entire event I had paid for piece by piece. I cancelled the order for the £20 organic turkey. I terminated the gourmet catering service, the one providing all the homemade-looking dishes my mother always boasted about as if she'd cooked them. I removed the delivery of imported wines and the handcrafted floral centerpieces she routinely pretended to arrange herself. With every confirmation click, their group chat buzzed with more cheerful ignorance. A selfie of my brother Ben and my father clinking beers. A boomerang of my mother tapping glasses with Ben's wife. Then a caption dripping with venom. A toast to family that behaves. I kept my phone on silent and let them float in their delusion. This wasn't an emotional outburst. It was the final collapse of a structure I had spent a lifetime straining to hold upright. For years, I excused away their behavior, smoothing over the small cruelties they directed at my daughter. I convinced myself, it's just how they are. They don't mean it. All families are complicated. But the truth, when I finally allowed myself to look at it, was a long, unbroken pattern of deliberate neglect. Ava's forgotten birthdays every year, remembered only after I sent an awkward reminder. The lavish gifts they showered on Ben's children. Gaming systems, designer outfits, elaborate toys. In contrast, Ava's yearly offering. A plain envelope with a $10 gift card, purchased with all the enthusiasm of buying office supplies. And the nickname, the most revealing thing of all, whispered when they thought out of earshot. The little one, as if her actual name required too much effort, as if she were merely an accessory to family gatherings. For years, I trudged forward, believing that maintaining peace was my responsibility. But when I saw Ava's tears, I realized something devastating. I wasn't keeping peace. I was enabling abuse. By allowing their treatment of her. I was teaching my daughter that conditional, transactional love was normal, that she must earn a seat at her own family's table. And I would sooner watch the entire world burn than let her believe that. The Monday after the Thanksgiving that never happened, the real siege began. Calls from Ben, then my father, then my mother. All ignored while I sat in a client meeting, my phone buzzing non-stop beside my laptop. That evening, a voicemail from my mother finally forced its way through. Her voice sounded frail, strategically weary, the kind of practiced helplessness she wielded like a weapon. "Amelia, honey," she began, dripping false tenderness. "We have a situation with the bank. We just need a little temporary help with a small issue with the mortgage." I knew exactly what she was referring to. 3 months earlier, a letter meant for them had been delivered to my house by mistake. It revealed that my parents had co-signed a $24,000 car loan for Ben, his latest luxury purchase, and used their house as collateral. The bank's foreclosure notice was blunt. Either the debt was settled within 30 days, or they'd lose the house. For the briefest moment, the obedient version of me, the daughter who always fixed things, felt the old tug of duty. It was the house I'd grown up in. The house where I learned to ride a bike, where I hid from imaginary monsters, where every childhood memory still lingered like dust in sunbeams. Against every instinct screaming otherwise, I gave them one last chance. I wired the full amount to the credit union. I didn't tell them. I let them stew in uncertainty until the bank officially withdrew the notice. When they called back, their voices were syrupy with relief. My mother practically giddy. She offered what she called a peace offering, a special shopping trip. Just for Eva, spoken with the tone of someone bestowing charity rather than love. It wasn't an apology, it was a transaction. A reward for my compliance. And I was a fool to think it meant anything else. Eva was vibrating with excitement. Fourth shopping trip. She insisted on wearing her sparkly boots. Even Thorfy gave her blisters. She stood by the window for an hour, a small bag packed with her allowance money, ready to go. My gut screamed at me to call it off, but I let her go, hoping, praying I was wrong. 4 hours later, she returned. She walked straight to her room without a word, and shut the door. My mother mumbled something about the mall being too crowded, and left before I could ask a question. Later, I found Eva crying silently into her pillow. In her hand was a single tiny keychain shaped like a snowman, the only thing they had bought her. She finally told me what happened. They hadn't taken her shopping for herself. They had taken her along while they bought Christmas presents for Ben's kids. Eva watched them pick out toys and clothes and a gold bracelet. When she quietly asked if she could get a small doll, she overheard my mother tell my father, "We already spent too much on their grandkids." That was the emotional dagger. A few weeks later, my father called, asking for a few thousand to clear up Ben's traffic violations. He joked that I should consider it an early inheritance. That was the final snap. I stopped thinking like a daughter and started thinking like the consultant they were treating me as. And I did what I do for my clients. I investigated. I ran a comprehensive background and financial check on my own parents. I pulled public records. It wasn't snooping. It was professional due diligence. And I found it. They didn't just have debt. They had a secret second mortgage on the house. It was leveragetto its breaking point. They weren't just cruel. They were financially catastrophe. And they had been grooming me to bear their next line of credit all along. When my father called again to plead forth money, my response was delivered with absolute cold finality. Not "I'll think about it," not "let's talk later." Just no. He was stunned into silence, then sputtered, "We're family." Amelia, you don't turn your back on family. I asked him calmly, my voice perfectly level. Does Eva count as family? The silence on his end was deafening. It stretched for 5, 10, 15 seconds. He couldn't answer. He didn't answer. That silence was my answer. The next day, my mother sent her an anonymous text. We always knew you'd punish us for not loving your mistake. There it was. The word they had thought but never dared to say out loud. The word that explained every forgotten birthday, every cheap gift, every whispered insult. It wasn't an insult anymore. It was a confession. It was the emotional crime that voided every unspoken contract of our relationship. For the first time in my life with hesitation, I blocked them. My mother, my father, my brother Ben, and his wife. Every phony number, every social media profile. I surgically removed them from my life. This time, it wasn't a break. It was a severance. The weeks that followed were a last desperate siege on my new walls. A guilt-tripping voicemail from an aunt I hadn't spoken to in 2 years. A 3-word email from Ben. We need help. A 5-page, handwritten letter from my mother, filled with excuses dressed as apologies. Blaming her behavior on stress, and saying she just needed more time to connect with Eva. I deleted them all without a second thought. Then 3 weeks before the house was scheduled for auction, they appeared at my front door. I saw them through the peephole, my mother clutching a folder of documents. My father looking haggard and defeated. I didn't open the main door. I left the chain on and opened it just enough to see them through the locked screen. The screen door was a perfect metaphor. They were on the outside looking in, unable to reach me or my daughter. Before they could launch into their prepared speeches, I delivered my verdict. My voice was calm and steady like a CEO delivering a final quarter report. You were willing to let my daughter feel like garbage so you could keep playing happy family. I stated, I gave you every chance. I paid your debts and you used every dollar I gave you to hurt the one person who has never done anything to you. There was no argument. They knew it was true. My mother's face crumpled, and in a last pathetic plea she asked, so she doesn't forget us? I looked her dead in the eye. Oh, I said, my voice devoid of all emotion. You made sure she'd never forget you. Then I closed the main door. The click off the deadbolt was the final sound. The house sold 19 days later. They moved in with Ben. He was always their favorite. Now he could be their lifeline. Eva and he never spoke of them again. Our life became defined by a new kind of quiet and earned peace built on small, joyful rituals. We made spaghetti on Tuesdays. We put extra whipped cream on store-bought brownies. We stayed up too late on school nights watching old movies wrapped in a single blanket on the couch. This was our new foundation. Solid and real. Built on mutual respect and unconditional love. I am teaching my daughter a lesson. I had to learn the hard way. We don't let people keep a place in our lives just because we share DNA. Love is something that is proven, not something that is owed. For the first time, I didn't just close the door in the pain of my past. I locked it and he threw away the key. True peace isn't about forgiveness. Sometimes it's about choosing who gets to have access to your heart. Have you ever had to make a choice like this? Share your story in the comments.